Hi there. One of my friends in my school community asked me about Zellij, a terminal multiplexer based on Rust, and I I said here, based on the title, I think I might have some reactions, so I'll make a video about it. So I'm going to go through this video and see. As Mikola here is already saying, give me at least one reason why I should change my perfect Tmux. So I might have some thoughts about this. I'm gonna go into this with an open mind. I'm gonna try not to have too many hot takes. We'll see. Maybe I will be pleasantly surprised. I don't know. So let's open the video.
About a tool that all
And I'm gonna go to YouTube for that. And this like already just appreciate how nice this setting is. Like look at with the light and the quality. Like KubeCraft is such an amazing YouTuber. If you haven't subscribed to him yet, in fact, I haven't subscribed to him yet. Oh my God. I've been watching a few videos and I haven't even subscribed. If you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe to him now and let's go into the video.
cool kids are kind of using these days. It's called Zellij. It is a terminal multiplexer that is set to rival Tmux. It has
Okay. Already that is a very bold claim to make. Like I'm not saying he's not making the claim. He's saying it is said that it's to rival Tmux, and that's bold. That's bold. You have my attention.
has awesome key bindings out of the box for creating a new pane, creating another new pane, moving amongst these panes, talking about sessions, managing your sessions, searching through stuff on your panes. It's amazing, but how does it stack up with Tmux? We'll go over it. This episode's about Zellij, or Zellij? Hold on a second. How to pronounce Zellij?
Zellij.
Zellij. This episode's about
Zellij. That's so funny.
Zellij. Stick around, it'll be fun.
I like Zellij. Zellij? I like Zellij better. Zellij. It's called Zellij.
Now, before we get into Zellij and how it stacks up against Tmux, I want to go over really quickly what Zellij is. You see, Zellij, much like Tmux, is a terminal multiplexer. But what is a terminal multiplexer and why is it useful? Well, let me demonstrate, at least from a high level, how this works. So any user in a Unix-like environment, so let's create a user here really quick, just a little stick figure. This person has very little legs. Any user in a Unix environment, when they open up a terminal, they essentially have what's called a sudo login to that terminal. And in a Unix environment, you only have one sudo login per terminal window. So we can call this sudo login. Now with a
Well, is anybody else confused about the word sudo here? Like sudo in super user do, sudo, sudo and pseudo.
a terminal multiplexer like Zellij or Tmux, you can do some more interesting things. So much like a regular terminal, you have a single terminal sudo login session, but if you're using a terminal multiplexer, from that terminal you can spawn multiple sudo logins from one controlling terminal window. This gives you some amazing stuff, like the ability to run long-running processes and then switch back to another window, the ability to run like servers and then look in the same pane in the same window at your code. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do here. And so this
Yeah, that's right. I use this when, for example, when I used to make database dumps for like multiple terabytes, I would log into the VM, start a Tmux session, and then I could detach from that session and just let it run in the background, and then occasionally attach to the session and see how the progress was. It's super useful.
This is what's called a terminal multiplexer, or for short, Tmux. And that is where the name Tmux comes from. This is also what Zellij does, except it claims to be a little bit more modern and user-friendly than Tmux. So let's get into Zellij. Now, downloading Zellij is really easy. It's available in Homebrew for Mac OS.
Okay, so that's interesting that Tmux is apparently regarded as not user-friendly. That's an interesting thought I'm going to keep in the back of my mind here.
OS. It's available in multiple distributions for Linux. It's also available in Arch, and I use Arch, by the way. So for me, I would install this using my favorite package manager,
GigaChad spotted, Arch, yay.
Arch Linux, which is yay, and I would install Zellij, and that's how it works. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Now, if we launch Zellij, we can see that we're presented with what looks like a pretty noisy screen, but there's actually some really helpful information here. You see at the bottom, we have this sort of row of key bindings. And if I hit one of these key bindings, let's say Control+P for pane, it puts me into a new mode. You see that at the very bottom, the key bindings have changed. So now if I hit N, which should give me a new pane, that's exactly what it does. Control+P to go into pane mode, hit N to get a new pane. It's awesome. This is a great way to have some awesome key binding discovery for your first time using Zellij. And what's really great is Zellij comes with a Tmux mode baked in. So Control+B will get you into Tmux mode, which is great because that's the default key binding for Tmux. So if I do Control+B %, that'll give me a vertical split. And if I do Control+B double quote, that'll give me a horizontal split. Excellent. And if I hold
Okay, so I'm happy to see it. I was about to pause the video and go off on the key bindings because you don't want to unlearn the Tmux key bindings. Like, seriously, you don't want to do that. Even in Tmux itself, many people, they reconfigure their Tmux key bindings, for example, to resemble Vim navigation. And one of the best advice I got when I got started out was to always stick with the default key bindings, because when you find yourself on a system that does not have your configuration file, you're screwed. You're really screwed. You might as well not have learned Tmux because you're completely useless. And if you need to look up the key bindings every time, you're going to lose a lot of time.
I hold down Alt, I can go left and right to switch between my panes. Control+B, C will create a new pane and a new window, which is exactly what it would do in Tmux. This is really, really nice. And it's a very easy way to sort of dip your toes into Zellij. The discovery of all the key bindings is really straightforward, very simple, and I like it a lot. Now let's talk about Zellij and configuration. You see, on the documentation site for Zellij, configuration is listed right off the bat, and it's very easy to get started. There's a simple command that will dump a pre-baked configuration that has all the configuration values into a configuration file. And if you run that command, you're left with a configuration that looks like this. And you can see it's really easy where you want to change some values to get the right actions and the right feel that you want out of Zellij. This is really nice as well. The configuration setup is, I would say, straightforward. The second thing that I really love about Zellij is built-in layouts. Layouts are something that I think are amazing. For me, when I start up a new project, I want to be able to have a pane and then another pane on the side that has my server running, maybe another pane up top just to run nerd fetch to show everyone I run Arch Linux, by the way. Either way, I love layouts, and I love that Zellij has these as a first-class citizen. They're built in. You can create a layout. The layout files are pretty self-explanatory as well, and there's a lot of great documentation for layouts on the Zellij website. So
Okay, that's cool. I like that idea. Being able to define layouts in files where you define the panes and what size they should open in.
So check that out if you're interested. Now, to open up Zellij with a predefined layout, all you have to do is pass the layout option to the Zellij command, and the layout option takes an argument, which is the path of the layout file. So mine is in config zellij layout.kdl. And as you can see, this opens up a new Zellij instance with the layout that I laid out in my configuration file. Very straightforward, very easy to use. This is very promising. One more thing that I absolutely love about Zellij is session resurrection. And
Okay, well, before we go into the next one, I think that's actually an interesting thing about Zellij. Let me see. So the thing is, though, like what I'm used to is that when I start up my PC, I always start up a browser in my desktop number one. I have my Obsidian in number 2, and then when I switch to desktop number 3, I have my terminal open. So I have this terminal open, and then on the top here you can see there's one open, and then I will just create new windows as I go along. So it doesn't happen often that I actually spawn a new Tmux session. I always just have one Tmux session open here at all times. So if I close that now, here you see this Tmux session has been open for 24 hours. I have now closed it, but when I reboot my PC, I switch to desktop number 3, I open up Alacrity, I press T, and then my terminal is set up. So I don't really spawn sessions that often. So I'm not sure how useful a layout would be for me. Like, I also don't need much more elaborate configuration than let's say I go to my lab repo, and here I am working on a deployment, and then I would usually open up maybe kubectl here and have something watching, but that's not necessarily something that I need to have configured out of the box, like as a command. Like, he was doing this Zellij and then passing a flag, but it's really interesting that you would be able to just create an alias. And as a matter of fact, I do have an alias for NB. So here I have an alias. This actually spawns a new Tmux session. It splits it, and then it opens a newsfeed reader. And now I can open up these and I can read it, and I like it like this because then the content is centered in my screen instead of just opening it in this one. So there is one use case that I might have for it, but it's definitely something interesting to consider.
And session management. You can see the documentation, it lays it all out here for you. But essentially, if you run Zellij and pass the list sessions argument, you will have a list of all the sessions that you recently created, even the ones that you exited. It's great that this comes built in. With Tmux, you need to use a plugin or maybe even a couple of plugins to get this kind of functionality. It's pretty great. Also, you can manage your sessions from within Zellij by looking at.
Okay, so I'm not sure if I'm really understanding that correctly. Like in my first impression is, okay, Tmux does this and it's not inefficient at all. It's very user friendly. Like if I go here, Tmux ls, here is my current session, and if I press Ctrl BD, I detach from that. And if I create a new one by just typing Tmux, I now have 2 sessions open. So Tmux ls. You see now that I have one session here with 2 windows, and there's one session here with 0 windows. And if I just do I'll just print something here, and I can also just watch N1 kubectl get pods. Like now I have a process running in this here, and you can see the counter that's going. And if I then Ctrl BD, I'm detaching from that again. Tmux ls, Tmux attach session, and then T0. Now I'm back to this session again. ls, Tmux ls. There's this session here, and just to make sure that I'm not messing up, so figlet kekw. This is my kekw session. Ctrl BD, Tmux attach session T, and then 2. And now I'm back to the hello world session with the counter that's still going up. So I'm not sure. Am I understanding this wrong? Let's see.
This kind of functionality, it's pretty great. Also, argument, you will have a list of all the sessions that you recently created, even the ones that you exited. It's great that this comes built in with Tmux out here for you. But essentially, if you run Zellij and pass the list sessions argument, you will have a list of all the sessions that you recently created, even the ones that you exited. It's great.
Oh, even the ones that you exited. So it will save the session even when you close it?
Great that this comes built in. With Tmux, you need to use a plugin or maybe even a couple of plugins to get this kind of functionality. It's pretty great. Also, you can manage your sessions from within Zellij by looking at the bottom line here and typing Control O for session. Now, if you hit W, you can go into Session Manager, and here are all the sessions that are currently running. Then you hit Tab, and it'll go over to your exited sessions. So you can resurrect any of these sessions whenever you want, just like that. Pretty great. Now, Zellij is truly amazing. It has really great features. The mode system for hitting Control and a button to go into a new mode is really interesting, and I can see how it allows for a lot of powerful built-in features. But for me, I'm not sure if I'm ready to switch over to Zellij.
Okay. I think me and Mr. Typecraft are on the same page. But before I do that, I just wanted to get clear on this then. So then the difference is these are the actual just Tmux sessions and I can attach to them. It's very easy T0. But that's not that's not the selling point of Zellij. The Zellij is that you can resurrect sessions that you have exited, and I think that's a very interesting fact here. Like I don't currently need that in my workflow because I'm very disciplined in, like, every day I close my panes and I reopen them, and I have a sort of a system that I always have my second brain in pane number 1 for easy reference. And yes, at this moment I don't really have a use case of resurrecting sessions because, like, it's never really that complicated. It's basically my second brain. It will be a coding project and a Kubernetes cluster I have open. That's it. And I currently don't need to resurrect them. But let's keep all of the conclusions towards the end and see. I'm interested in hearing his take on switching over to Zellij.
And that's mostly because I have an amazing setup with Tmux right now. Here's how it works. If I open Tmux, I can run a program like NeoVim. I can then create a new pane, and with my Tmux key bindings and with a couple of plugins, one for NeoVim, one for Tmux, I can easily navigate in between all of my panes with just one keystroke. I'll make one more pane just to let you know how it looks. By holding Control, I can hit K, H, and then L to go right and J to go.
This is what I was saying, right? About unlearning Tmux key bindings. Typecraft.
Go down. These are the same key bindings for Vim. If I have a Vim pane, I would go J and K to go down and up, and then I can go L to go right into Tmux. Tmux has seamlessly blended in with NeoVim in terms of its panes and windows. And for me, this is the most powerful feature that I can use in Tmux. It's so ingrained in my muscle memory. It's perfect for me. I use it in my workflow every single day. The problem with Zellij is that you can't really do that. Because Zellij has a system where hitting Control goes into another mode, it makes it really difficult to have seamless keybinds that go left to right. Now, of course, you can hold Alt and go left and right, but that's not really the same thing. I like to have my NeoVim and my Tmux perfectly configured together in harmony. If you know how to do this in Zellij, please let me know because I'd be very interested. But for now, I think I'm going to use Tmux. Now, if you like the Tmux setup that you saw here, please subscribe because I got a whole entire course on Tmux. And hey, thanks, nerds.
All right, awesome video. Like, Mr. Typecraft, much respect. The quality of his image and how everything is set up, it's just, wonderful. It's just a pleasure to watch. However, I am somewhat fiercely, how do I say this? I'm against his. Like, everybody needs to do what they feel is best for their workflow. I'm not saying he should do things differently, but I would never. What he was showing here.
Built-in features, but for me, with with a couple
let's
of
see.
one more pane just to let you know how it looks. By holding Control, I can hit K, H, and then L to go right and J to go down.
Yeah, so this is amazing in terms of local development workflow. Like I love what he is saying about seamlessly integrating Tmux and NeoVim. I think that's a really cool way of approaching it and thinking about it. Like in my mind, it's just learning Tmux well. It doesn't necessarily have to do anything to do with Vim, with NeoVim. You could also have Nano open to the left one as long as you are able to navigate the pane smoothly. That is the only thing that is happening here. So what he's describing is that
these are the same key bindings for
is that you in Vim you can have like let's see, if I go, I've just opened up a bicep file here and close this window. So in Vim, you can also do vsplit. Like this, you can have them here. And then, so for now, when I have to switch to my Vim up here, I have to do Ctrl+B-O. And then NeoVim is configured to be able to switch between these by pressing Ctrl+H and Ctrl+L. And what he has done is that he also switches between Tmux with the same key bindings. So fair enough. I can see how that can be smooth. It saves a key binding. But the big thing here is, what if you are on a system that does not have these Ctrl+H+J key bindings configured? And you might say, like, when do you encounter yourself in that situation? Well, I recently did my CKS exam, for example. There are no Vim key bindings in your Tmux over there. It's just plain vanilla Tmux that you have there. And this is a super intense 2-hour exam where you have to, I passed by the way, but where you have to solve tasks, like extremely difficult tasks, and many of them in 2 hours. And speed is of the essence. Speed is extremely important in these kinds of exams. So you need to be able to do create role binding, and then help, and then have that open here, and then be able to have this. You see this here? You have that for quick reference. Okay, create role binding, SA, cluster role. And then you quickly write it like this. And then, oh, you have to check if it was right. So, okay, get role bindings. Like, this is really how this exam is, this pace. Okay, get role bindings. Okay, next question. The next question is to create a service account. Okay, create SA. How was that again? SA, do I need to have a namespace with that? I check it out. No, okay, well, I can't see it here. Okay, create SA, and then grep for namespace. And no, it does no matches, so then I know I have to search somewhere else. Like, it's really this kind of pace. In this situation, you see how I'm switching between Tmux windows. I'm splitting them. I am opening them up. I do it seamlessly, and all with the normal Tmux key bindings. And like, this is of course a very extraordinary situation. But if you are a Kubernetes engineer, if you are a serious operations person, if you want to do these exams, you need to know these key bindings. You need to be able to be fast with Tmux. And you are not going to be memorizing how to configure this on your session. I'm not even sure if you can configure this in these kinds of exams. So I love it that he has a workflow like this that works for him. And when you are only interested in local development workflows, do your thing. Go ahead. It's awesome. But if you're a serious operations DevOps engineer who will either need to do these exams or can find himself in very intense situations where you're fixing problems on 3 clusters at a time, then from several different jump hosts. You might have to log into a VM from where you are managing your cluster. Well, those VMs are just going to have the vanilla Tmux config. So there is a very strong case, in my opinion, to have the vanilla Tmux key bindings down in the muscle memory without needing to think. There is a huge case for this if you are a serious DevOps operations person in the cloud native world, or in the Linux administration world for that matter. Now, back to Zellij, this is all related, right? Like, from what I see here, I don't necessarily have a problem with using Zellij because what he showed was that the Tmux key bindings work out of the box, and I am like at this point I am really not getting why I would use Zellij. Like, if I'm using Zellij and I'm using the default Tmux key bindings, what do I get out of it? First of all, I thought this was his own configuration, but apparently he said that it came like this out of the box. This is way too much noise for me. Way too much. And I am not going to be learning a completely new set of key bindings and having modes in your terminal multiplexer with pane mode and tab mode. I'm never going to do that. I'm never going to do that. Why would I ever want to learn something else than Tmux? But that's not a problem because he says it's completely supported with the Tmux key bindings. Okay, great. Next, then there is this resurrections, these layouts, and this session resurrection management. Those are some features that I would be interested in trying out. I am definitely keeping those in the back of my mind. I'm going to evaluate my workflow, and I'm going to see if I can have a genuine use case for myself, like out of curiosity, where I would want to be, if I have like my several sessions open, if I want to have a command that I can run, which will, if I would say do Zellij and then have my client name, for example. One use case I would have is that I do Zellij client name and then a new session opens. I don't know if this will be nested in this terminal session or not. I don't know. But if then it will open the repo for that client that I'm working on and then loads an SSH key, for example, and it would open documentation that is relevant to that client, then I can see how this could be interesting to play around with. Again, the way I do it now, I would have my second brain open, and that's also my main entry point. And from here, I would go to here. I have a shortcut for my repos, and then I'm already here. So from here, I can just open the code that I'm working on. And if I need something else, I can open my cluster. So it literally takes me 2 seconds to get set up. I don't think I would actually win a lot of using the layouts, but I'm certainly going to consider that. And then there is the session resurrection stuff. I don't know. It's cool. It's cool, but I have never had the thought of, oh, I wish I could respawn my previous Tmux session. I'm always very careful on saving my files and knowing exactly what I'm doing. There is at most going to be maybe a horizontal split here and then another vertical split like that. So I might be working on, say I'm working in my home lab. Here I have my code, and then I'm pushing an update to one of my apps here, for example. Like I'm opening my ingress here, and then down here I might have like here Flux and get customizations. I would have this up here. I would have this running, and then maybe I would split that with some. Maybe I would split that with just being able to describe some pods. Okay, describe pod. And then I would have my Cellcast and tracker pod, for example, or my DB production V1. I could do some things in here, but this is at most what I would be running. Like I don't have much more complex things than this. And then I would have my windows open like that. And if I lose this, if I detach from this and I forget about it and I can't attach to it, boo-hoo. It really doesn't bother me as much. But it is an interesting feature that I might consider.
Sessions, argument.
And then,
you will have.
It is an interesting thing. It is definitely interesting, but I really don't understand. I really don't get why I would switch to this from Tmux. I know there are some very respectable people that actually use Zellij. So, yeah, it's apparently it does something good for them. But I'm sticking with my good old trusty Tmux, mostly because when I find myself in intense situations, I know what to do. And like I described with this recent situation where the CKS exam, and this goes for CKA, CKAD, and CKS, and probably more exams in the future are going to be of this practical nature where you're doing stuff in the terminal in Tmux. And that is my number one reason for sticking with Tmux, sticking with the basics. If it works, why change it? So, all right, that was my take on this. And I'm going to keep it in the back of my mind, but it will take a lot for me to move away from my trusted, loving Tmux. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next one.